Pick your path. Maintain leadership or grow leadership. This past Mother's Day, our oldest, his name is Anthony, he knows that I have an orchid, and he also wanted to give me a special gift for Mother's Day that he knew wouldn't die or require my ongoing attention. And so he decided to give me a Lego orchid plant. And it's the coolest thing. Of course, I had him build it, and I loved watching him. And now this finished orchid sits on my mantelpiece above our fireplace. And you know what? It looks perfect. Like every day I get to look at it. It looks perfect. That I don't have to worry about it wilting. I don't need to worry about watering it, or does it need sunlight? But you know what? That also means that it doesn't change or grow. This is the orchid the way it's going to look from now going forward. Of course, I own a real orchid plant that I literally have spent years learning how to care for. And it had me thinking, like, I want to use the real orchid and my Lego orchid to illustrate today's lesson, to maintain leadership or grow leadership. Just like Anthony purchased a box with all of the pieces in it, the directions book, and a few extra pieces, you likely, as a leader, you've probably inherited an existing team, or even if you've built the team, they likely came with some unknowns you weren't expecting or anticipating. As Anthony was constructing the orchid, like initially it was really easy for him. I mean, he has built probably 1,000 Legos in the course of his life. But then he got to the part where there were small and tedious parts that he needed to build. There was a lot of repetition, and some of the parts were more intricate than others. And isn't leadership just like that? There are parts of leadership that are just plain right more fun. They seem easier. For you, it could be you enjoy leading the meetings, but having to meet one to one with your team members is just not fun for you. Especially because when you're dealing with emotions and potential drama of the team members, the intricacies that make an individual, let's say, harder to manage or to lead, it can wear you out. It's just less desirable. Just like the Lego orchid, there are parts that look good on the outside because there are pieces that they're covering up that aren't as visually appealing. So I think if we're not careful, we can be Lego orchid leaders. We want to build people, and those people, we want to build our culture in our organization. And then we want to place them on a mantle, and we want to be hands off. Like, in effect, we want to move to a maintain leadership mode. After all, I mean, it's nice to not have to water it, fertilize it, endure the seasons where there are no blooms. In the case of leading people, maybe it's lack of production or productivity. While that may work for a Lego orchid, it doesn't work great for people because people end up looking good, but not really changing or growing. And I find that over time, they stop looking as well too. So let's compare that to a real orchid. For an orchid to flourish, it needs consistent watering, good lighting, appropriate temperatures, and fertilization. When I first received the orchid, I placed it on the mantle. I know. I followed the watering instructions, but I didn't even think about the fertilization piece of it. And I'll tell you, I was getting frustrated that it wasn't blooming, or it bloomed very irregularly. And so I started researching and asking questions, and I ended up moving it to a new location with brighter indirect light, better and more consistent temperatures. And I added these fertilization sticks, and voila, it started blooming more consistently and beautifully, I might add. So let's look at some key things we can do to grow our leadership. Number one, give those you lead your attention. You got to learn about them. Schedule and hold one-to-one meetings regularly. Secondly, pay attention to the environment in which your people are working. Maybe moving a desk or placing folks who work together often in closer proximity is necessary. Third, you got to water consistently with constructive feedback and praise. If you have time to give constructive feedback, you have time to give praise. Interesting fact, orchids need lukewarm water. So you're not shocking the roots. What I find as leaders, if we're only criticizing and we're never praising, you're likely shocking the roots of your team members. So it's important that you give both constructive feedback and praise. And lastly, you need to fertilize by continually bringing yourself and your team back to the vision, mission, and values. Listen, both for the company and for yourself, for their selves. It can be easy to fall into the mindset of maintaining our leadership. This week, I encourage you, take time to reflect on your leadership. Are you just maintaining or are you growing it? Your title likely isn't changing, but your influence could and should be blooming. And when your influence is blooming, those you lead are much more likely to bloom. I'm Elizabeth Mahusai, executive business coach, corporate trainer, keynote speaker, and international best-selling author of Pick Your Path. And I want to encourage you to grow today in your leadership.